Coming up in the next 30 minutes, we pour water onto a road, we look at a new innovative filter system, and we get the whole team to edit the same photo. Welcome to another episode of Photography Online, which is sponsored by Pouch, and more on that shortly. Well, you might be wondering why I'm indoors. Well, due to several days of very stormy weather, we've been unable to film on location, so we've been beaten back into the studio where we do our PO live show. It does, however, give us the opportunity to use the Wheel of Fortune to choose our tripod spikes winners, so do stick around for that. Before we take a look at our first feature though, here is a quick photography question for you. How did Kodak get its name? Was it A, the original name was K-Doc, but the name was accidentally flipped in an early marketing campaign and was decided it was actually better? B, George Eastman, who founded the company, liked the letter K and wanted the name to start and end with it? C, George Eastman was a fan of the popular TV detective Kojak and wanted a similar name? Or D, George Eastman's university lecturer on photography was called Jack Kodak, so he named it in his honour. As ever, this is just for fun and I'll be revealing the answer later on. So let's get the show underway as we tag along on a recent photo shoot with one of the team.
Welcome to the red phone box. This is only about 10 minutes from where I live, and I've been driving past this place for 10 years, promising myself that I'm going to take a photo of it one day. And I thought I'd better get on with it because these things are rapidly disappearing and they're such an important part of British history. And I didn't want to drive past one day to find it gone and then kick myself for not photographing it. Now, the shot I have in my mind is I want to bring this phone box back to life. So I'm going to artificially light it from inside, and then as well as that I'm going to hit it with a couple of torches from various angles just to pick it out a little bit. I don't want it to be over the top and look like it's floodlit, just lift it from its surroundings a little bit. You can see that the phone box is leaning naturally, and the tendency would be to kind of straighten that, but then you get your horizon all wonky. So I think we'll leave the phone box wonky. It kind of adds to the story. So we could go something like this, go nice and close up, but then we don't get the reflection. So at the moment, in this current light, that looks quite good. However, when we get the reflection on the pavement, I think that back here, so you see how the car lights are reflecting off that road there? So I think if we come back here and we get the red shining down on the road, and that will really fill in that blank space at the bottom, a bit like those car lights are doing now. So this is the light panel I'm going to use to light the phone box, and this one is from Litu Photo, and I've been using this for quite a wide range of applications, particularly indoor photography when I'm doing property shoots. Put them in the bath and in the shower so that you can't see them, and they just uplight everything, make everything look a bit more cozy and sexy. So it's quite bright, this. And you can change the colour temperature, change the colour temperature as well. I think we probably want this quite warm, so I'm going to leave it on its warmest setting. Put that up there, and you can see now that we've got a nice glow going on the top of that, but it will get better as the ambient light falls. This effectively is going to become brighter. Inside of the phone box is done. I've got a couple of torches which I'm going to use to hit it from the side, and if you can see that to the left and the right of the phone box, the ground falls off and goes downhill, and that's going to be really important when it comes to lighting it, because it means that I can get the torches down quite low, and by pointing them up means I'm not going to spill too much light on the surrounding ground, just be able to hit the phone box without spilling any on the foreground. So everything's looking good, the light levels are falling. We're probably about 10 minutes away now from the ambient light being perfectly balanced with the light in the phone box. Now, the other good thing about this is that in a normal landscape situation, I'd be looking at these power poles, and there's a kind of pylon, a communications tower on top of the hill there, and they would jump out at me as being eyesores. But here they're perfect because they're all telling the story. We've got a phone box, a communications tower on the top there, and I quite like those power lines going over the top of the sky. So for once, I'm welcoming all the distractions that are going on in the shot here. Now, one thing I have just noticed is that from my viewpoint where I've set up here, I can only see a very, very small part of the front of the telephone box. So I'm looking at the side and I'm very square on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move left a little bit just to reveal a little bit more of the front of the door of the phone box, just so that it's not quite so two-dimensional. We can see a little bit of light down the left-hand side of that phone box. Now, of course, because I've moved, I need to remember to refocus again. So I can actually read the telephone sign on both the front and the side of the phone box now. So I'm just going to get that pin sharp, which is exactly there. So I've got a couple of head torches, and I've positioned one over down in the ditch over there, so it's kind of pointing up, but these are really quite powerful, as you can see. So if I hit the telephone box like that, it becomes way too much. So what I'm doing with the torch over here is I'm purposely missing it with the beam, and it's just catching with the periphery of the light, and that achieves two things. A, it gives us the right amount of illumination, but also it stops us getting a hot spot, and so the light is a lot more even and softer. So I've got a little bit of light falling on the, what to us is the front of the phone box, but it's actually the side of the phone box. And then when the time's right, which is very soon, I'm just waiting for that cloud to come over a little bit more, I'm gonna put this on a 10-second timer and run over there and hit the side of the phone box with a little bit more light than I'm getting from this side here, because we haven't got that much of that side, so I can afford to shed a little bit more light on it, and hopefully that will just finish everything off. And then all we need is a bit of luck with a car coming round the road here, and I think that will be a good shot. It's currently 5:30 on a Monday afternoon, and this is rush hour traffic on the Isle of Skye. Think about that next time you're sitting nose to tail in a traffic jam wherever you live. If that cloud can come over a little bit more, then we'll be good to go. But while we're waiting, I'm just going to do a test shot, because I don't want to be at the end of that envelope of time where the ambient light is nicely balanced and then realise I've got to make adjustments with my lighting of the torch here. So I'm going to give it a quick test shot just to make sure everything is good. So I've got the 10-second timer on. So this is going to end up with a bit of a dash. Phone box looks good. Reflection looks good. Sky, not so much. Still that annoying little corner up there, but it is going. But just as that's going, we're getting another one developing over here. But everything else is looking really good. I can hear a car coming. Take the 10-second timer off. I'll go to F16 because that will give me some nice star bursts on the headlights. And I keep my torch on just so that the car can see me and doesn't plough straight into me in the dark. Okay, shutter is open.
I wasn't able to light the left-hand side of the phone box here, as I didn't want to leave my camera unattended in the middle of the road for obvious reasons. But in hindsight, there was no need to light the left side of the phone box, as the car does this for me. I love the subtle yet noticeable starburst in the reflection of the door. This was caused by my use of a small aperture. I then poured some fine Scottish tap water over the damp road to maximise the reflections for the next shot I wanted without a car.
Okay, let's give it another go. Oh, that was without the self timer. Whoops. Okay, what I do is I use this opportunity to show you what happens if we front light the phone box. That'll do. It looks like that, horrible. So let's do that again, but this time with the 10-second timer on. Yep, sky's good, reflection's good, phone box is good, road's good. What's not to like about that?
So excuse the hurricane wind noise going on outside the studio windows, that is why we're actually indoors. Now, we're always saying how important it is to have a project to get you inspired to take more photos, and that shot has given Marcus an idea to photograph a series of photos documenting skies past. The island is littered with relics from yesteryear, many of which are disappearing before our very eyes. So it's an opportunity to capture them now before it's too late. Old post offices, abandoned buildings with notable histories, crumbling castles, the list goes on and on. I'm sure you'll be witness to some of these photo shoots as they happen, so do make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss out on any future shows. So Harry has a big birthday coming up, and I've been on the hunt for a suitable present. After very briefly considering what I could get him, I settled on the ultimate gift for a man of a certain age, a fine pair of socks. But even for Harry, I wasn't willing to spend too much cash. Pouch is a free desktop browser extension that automatically finds and applies the best discount codes when you're shopping online, because let's face it, nobody wants to pay full price if they don't have to. So I was shopping on mountainwarehouse.com for some suitable hosiery and wasn't sure if I wanted to fork out for the multi-pack, but when I got to the checkout, Pouch automatically popped up and found me a code for 15% off and applied it. So even though they were already on sale, I saved an extra £4.05. Pouch works in over 3,000 UK stores, big and small, including popular sites like Currys, Go Outdoors and Booking.com, and they've just launched Pouch Points. So even if there's no live codes available at the time that you're shopping online, you can still earn points from participating retailers, which can be redeemed for gift cards. It really is very simple to set up. It only takes a couple of clicks to install, and then all you need to do is make sure to pin it to your browser. So my shopping's done. Shh, don't tell Harry. Get Pouch for free right now by clicking the link at the top of this video's description. Okay, well, next up it is time for Kit Corner, where this month Nick is using a new filter system from our favourite filter brand.
If you want to invest in a filter system for your photography, then you won't be limited for options.
There are good systems out there and not so good ones, but the one that we use and consider to be the best is this one from Kase. The combination of being colour neutral, extremely robust, easy to use and also affordable makes this system a winner for me. So you'd think that the people at Kase HQ would have time to sit back and relax, but they've decided to make the system even easier to use and have brought out the new Magnetic Armour system.
The good thing about this is that it's compatible with your existing filters, at least your grads and ND filters. All you need to do is fix one of these magnetic frames around your existing filter. This is easily done by unscrewing 4 screws using the supplied tool. This is something you will want to do on a table at home rather than out in the field, as the screws are very small and if you drop one on the floor, you won't be finding it again.
Once the frame is fixed, it snaps into place and easily slides up and down. There's no need to try and find the slots in the traditional filter system, That's what makes the Armour system easy to use.
You can stack as many as you like on top of one another using a combination of grads and NDs.
There's also a polarizer seated at the back where it should be, not at the front like other systems, not mention any names, which let light leak round the back and cause unwanted reflections. If you only want to use the polarizer, then there's no need for the holder. You simply snap that onto the lens and rotate it as you normally would to get the desired result. If you want to use a circular ND, then this also simply snaps on in the same way, and you just gently prise it off with a finger. You can stack multiple filters all on top of each other, with each one forming a light tight seal with the one behind. Now you may be thinking, how do you rotate the polarizer if it's at the rear of the holder? Well, that's what this wheel here is for. And regardless of whether the polarizer is at the front or the rear of the stack, it will always get rotated by that wheel. You only need to use this holder if you want to apply grads and square NDs to the mix. If you do this, make sure you have no more than one circular filter seated at the front, otherwise it will make contact with the glass of a square filter when it snaps onto place. If you do want to stack circular filters, this should be done at the rear of the holder, not at the front of it. But if you need to add more than 3 filters to the holder, such as a polarizer, an ND and a grad, then you really need to give yourself a good talking to, because that won't result in a good photo. Not because of the filters, but because you're throwing so much glass at it that there's probably no reason to be taking the photo in the first place. One thing you won't find easy about this system is that it's not glove friendly. You won't be able to prise the circular filters out of the holder whilst wearing gloves or mittens. Now, obviously this is only a minor point, but I'm only mentioning it because I can't find any other negatives.
If that system looks like the kind of thing that you need in your bag, then there is a link in the usual place. I know many of our team have chosen to change over to the Armour system themselves, so if you were looking for an endorsement, then there it is. On the subject of Kase Filters, our monthly live show, aptly named PO Live, is sponsored by Kase Filters UK, and we give away a £50 voucher on every show, along with other prizes, guest photographers, and an exclusive insight behind the scenes of photography online. It's a great show to be part of, but it is only available to our PO Live supporters or above. On this month's show, we'll be doing a live printing session with a difference, showing you how you can get arty looking prints like this at home from your digital camera without the need for a printer or a darkroom. As well as that, we'll be expanding on all the topics and features that we've covered on our regular shows over the past month. So if you've got any questions about Marcus's phone box shoot or the filter system that you've just seen, then why not join us? As always, you've got it. There's a link in the usual place. Okay, so it is time to reveal the winners of last month's competition. We have got 5 sets of these tripod spikes up for grabs, and we used the Photography Online Wheel of Fortune. After several spins to narrow down the entries, I can reveal the people who will be receiving the spikes are S. Home from Cheshire in the UK, Carlos Gregorio from Ontario in Canada, Darren Johnson from Essex in the UK, Arthur Williams from Mansfield in the UK, and Colin Menace from Hythe in the UK. So congratulations to you. All right, well, we thought it was about time to step into the digital darkroom to get 5 different takes on editing the same image.
On this episode of the Digital Darkroom, I thought I would edit this shot here, which was taken on one of our first trips of 2022, which saw us staying at this remote lighthouse with a small group of customers. Now, I'm not known for my prolonged editing. I literally like to spend a few seconds on a shot and then move on. I'm usually happy. However, that would make this feature rather brief. So I'm going to spend a little bit longer than I would normally spend on this. But then I thought it would be interesting to give the same file to the rest of the team to see their interpretation of it. Now, obviously, they don't have the experience of being there at the time, so they're going to be seeing it as a third person. So the first thing I'm going to do is straighten my horizon, because you can see that it's a tiny little bit off, and that looks straight there, so that's now done. Now, as I was saying, the others, they don't have the benefit of being here at the time, and I reckon that they will see that little post there as being like a pylon or something, and it's not. It's actually a weather vane, and I quite like that. Once you know what it is, it kind of makes sense with everything else. But I reckon they'll try and get rid of that. Just a prediction. But I'm going to purposely leave that in because I feel it adds to the story. So as you can see, the exposure is pretty good. If we look at the histogram up here, we've got everything from the darkest shadow to the brightest highlight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the highlights down a little bit, and then I'm going to push the whites up just to really make that water stand out a bit more. There we go. Now with the shadows, usually I would probably try and lift those slightly, but I don't want to because I want to keep all this richness in the rocks here. So I'm going to leave the shadows exactly as they are. The same with the black point as well. I don't want to touch that. So I think we're pretty good there. Let's just have a little play with the white balance, because I think that we could probably go a tiny little bit cooler on this, because my recollection was of quite a kind of cold and stark day, and I think that's the atmosphere that I want to try and get across here. So happy with that. Now let's put the texture up a little bit, just get some more grittiness going on in those rocks, and a tiny little bit of clarity as well. I don't want to touch the vibrance or the saturation because there wasn't that much colour anyway, and I think the subtle colours that are going on in the water here and in the rocks here, it's enough. This shot is not about colour. It's about drama and mood and atmosphere, and I think that by adding colour in and making it something it wasn't, it's going to end up being a long way from reality. If we do a quick before and after now, so that's after, and that's how it was to start with. So you can see that we've not made a huge change there, but it's got a lot crisper and cleaner. But let's see how the others get on with editing this shot.
I'm probably going to crop out the telegraph pole just up here, and the bottom left hand corner, don't have this rock coming in, so I'm just going to crop that off a little bit.
I think I'm going to start off with a little bit of a crop, because there's a little bit of rock in the corner that I personally find a little distracting, and we could also we could choose to try and clone out something like a distracting pylon there, but when we can easily crop it out of frame, I think, without overly impacting the composition.
So having had a look at the image, the first thing that I'm going to do is just give it a crop. This telegraph pole here really jumps out at me immediately, and so does this little bit of rock in the bottom left-hand corner. I just find any distractions around the edges really sort of are a snag for my eye, so I'm just going to bring the left-hand side of frame in a little bit. I
will check the horizon because it doesn't look quite perfectly straight to me.
I'm going to take the saturation down just to give it that sort of cold, almost erring towards monochrome, but by taking just a little bit of the colour out, I feel it sort of helps the cold, windy, stormy feeling that we're definitively getting there.
Very rarely touch the vibrance and saturation, so I don't think that needs that here.
Being quite sort of a grey, moody image, I'm not going to add too much saturation as I don't want it to look too overpowering, but I think that might just help to sort of bring out a little bit of the colour in the water here and just add a little bit more emphasis in sort of how rough it is.
Now I will add some texture, and this works really well with the rocks and the water. So just something like that, just a little bit, and then maybe a little bit of clarity. Just add that little extra pop, not too much.
I'm actually just going to reduce the texture on the water just to help that soft looking feeling.
So I'm just going to increase the shadows a little bit, just to reveal a little bit of detail in these dark rocks here in that midground.
So in the tone curve, I will add 2 points, and then add my contrast, so by lifting the highlights up a touch and then bringing the blacks down a touch as well.
I think I'd probably lift the black point just a tiny amount. I'm going to use the tone curve down here just for that, just because what I can then do is increase the contrast a little more without losing any detail in the dark portions of the image.
Next I will add a brush mask on some of the water here, because I might be able to bring a bit more detail back into the water down here.
Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull down a grad filter over the sky. I mean, it's perfectly exposed, but I think it might just work a little bit if I do darken the sky a hair.
And then we'll use the new Lightroom feature of Select Sky and see what detail we can bring down in that. I mean, there isn't, it looks like a bland grey sky anyway, so I'm just going to bring it down just to make it a bit darker overall. So bring the exposure down and the highlights just to darken that down a touch.
I'm just going to have a quick look at the before and after. So it's not too much of a difference, but I think we've just helped sort of increase the mood of the image a little bit.
And I'm pretty happy with that result there. That's for the before and after. Yeah, I don't think there's much more at all that needs doing to that.
If you want to give that photo your editing input, then we have made the raw file available to download. Just look for the relevant link below. We'd be interested to see your results, so feel free to send a low-res JPEG of your finished version back to us, and we'll maybe discuss them on one of our future PO live shows. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to edit a photo, which is why it'll be so interesting to see what your take on it will be. Okay, so before I go, I need to tell you the answer to the question that I asked at the beginning of the show. How did Kodak get its name? Was it A, the original name was KDOC, but the name was accidentally flipped in an early marketing campaign and it was decided it was actually better? B, George Eastman, who founded the company, liked the letter K and wanted the name to start and end with it. C, George Eastman was a fan of the popular TV detective show Kojak, so wanted a similar name. Or D, George Eastman's university lecturer on photography was called Jack Kodak, so he named it in his honour. The correct answer was B, George Eastman just liked the letter K and wanted the name of the company to start and end with it. Well done if you got that right. So that's us out of time for another show, but don't go just yet. The best part is coming up at the end, where we show you all the times that we tripped up when recording the show. A big thank you to Pouch for sponsoring the show, and do check out the link in the description for more information. I'll be back in just 14 days time with another packed show, including taking a look at some of the camera menu options which you might not know about, so make sure that you join me for that. Until then, take good care, but most of all, take good photos.
So what I thought we would do, to save this being a very short feature, is that I will edit
Once the frame is fixed, it simply snaps.
So it's an opportunity to capture them now before it's too late. Old post office. Sorry, my breakfast came back.
Prise the circular filters out of the holder very easily. Oh, stop saying very easily. You can't do it at all.
with all the memories that I had of being there at that time. But they're looking at it as a third person. And what the hell are you talking about?
How would you rotate the polarizer if it's at the rear of the holder? Well, that's what this wheel here is there for. Well, that's what this wheel here is for. If you do this, make sure you have no more than one